morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tableland Regional Council Ordinary Council meeting for April. I remind everyone to turn their devices off or to turn them on to silent, please. Do we have any apologies today? No. Could I ask everyone to be outstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. While we're standing, we'll observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you. Item number 6, councillors, declaration of any conflicts of interest by councillors or senior council officers. Councillor Barty.
Just in relation to the Peterson Creek discussion, item 16.1, I am a member of the Yungaburra Land Care.
Very good. So yeah, you intend on staying for that discussion. Any other conflicts, councillors? No, thank you. Item 7, confirmation of the minutes of the 9th of April, the post-election council meeting. Can I have a mover that those minutes are a true and accurate record? Councillor Billney. And a seconder, Councillor Cardew. Those in favour? Carried. Are there any matters arising from those minutes on the floor, councillors? No, and there were no matters arising, were there? No. Very good, thank you. So that brings us to our deputations. We have 3 deputations this morning. The first 2 will be on Peaks Gully. Could I ask Mary Rees to come forward, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mary, when you're ready.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Mary Rees, and I live on Evans Street, which is adjacent to the Peaks Gully issue that we're presenting today. And thank you for giving Michelle and me both the opportunity to present this, because we understand that some of you may not be aware of the history of this long-term problem. At the end of our presentation, we have handouts that we're going to give to all of you that consolidate everything that we're talking about, as well as phone. So, the Peaks Gully and town flooding have been a reported ongoing problem since 1999. That's 24 years. And we're concerned about this situation not being addressed. The need for the remediation has and will continue to become greater. So I need your attention, please. The TRC has stated their values of integrity, customer service, and creativity through continuous improvement. So you've promised to be efficient, effective, and sustainable local government, and that's great, because we feel that means that we can count on you. Congratulations to the new council members, and congratulations, Mayor Marty, on your re-election for a second term. We wanted to remind you that you ran on a platform saying that you would take responsibility for decisions, put community first by working in partnership with community, commit to invest in an extensive road drainage and water infrastructure, and always listen. We ask now that you act on this problem that has long been neglected, overlooked, or ignored, because it's not only our problem, it's your problem. Someone has to fix this, and we feel that you have a duty of care for a situation that affects businesses and residents of our town. It's your town. So much data has been submitted to the council over the years about the flooding issues, and newspaper articles have been reviewing this on an ongoing basis as recently as August 2023. One of the most poignant documents that we have about this was the late agenda item for the March 2nd, 2011 ordinary meeting. And this 25-page document refers to the consideration of future drainage augmentation works for Peaks Gully, as reported by Trevor Addo, who was the then General Manager and Infrastructure of Maintenance and Services. So I'm sure you have this on file somewhere, and we ask you all to please read it. Included in this report was a 1938 aerial photograph of Peaks Gully, and then another one in 2011, 70 decades after development. It shows the water flow through this area, and it's quite evident that it could be problematic. The report that states issues with the grossly deficient stormwater infrastructure in the catchment and the lack of a secondary flow path. It further outlines proposed works to be undertaken. We haven't seen those works in place. And so we ask you to read this and find out why this has been deficient and fallen short. It seems to be getting passed from one council to the next. So we're hoping that this council will remedy it. We do feel that the problem will be exacerbated by the Clear Mountain Estates and the Sunshine Gardens that are being developed upstream from Peaks Gully. And we do wonder, are the developers' fees and the headworks charges for those developments going to be allocated to improving the infrastructure as related to the draining and flooding and a no worsening effect? Don't you love that? Our neighborhood appealed to the TRC in 2019 on water drainage issues that were going to occur from the Mullingu project at Evans and Water Street. We were assured that this project would not have a worsening effect, but that's not been the case in light rains or in the heavy rains that we have experienced in the last few years. Nearly $1.7 million was budgeted for Peaks Gully in the 23-24 budget, but now there's no allocation budgeted until 27-28, and it drags out to 23 to 32, 33. And so we have to ask, why does this work continue to be delayed? And it's only going to cost more. Why is there $8.5 million for the Priors Creek development, but nothing for Peaks Gully? And we did wonder, we were told the Lions Club participation was dismissed from the Prior Creek project. We're wondering, would that have provided additional funding and freed up monies for essential projects like Peaks Gully? Will businesses be compensated for loss of damage and residents being reimbursed? Not so far as we know. Does the flooding through farms, former dump sites, and other areas present a biohazard downstream? Can anyone assure us that it doesn't? We can't tell you how to fix the problem, but there must be a plan in place as monies were allocated towards this. There's not enough drainage on Robert Street. Lloyd Street has too high a profile and an upward slope, and rainwater can't reach the existing drains. This was confirmed recently by Mark Viss, the infrastructure manager. The existing drains in Peaks Gully need to be maintained and kept clear more efficiently. Residents are going out there at times and cleaning the drains themselves to keep their own properties from flooding. What's wrong with this picture? Peaks Gully underground drains need to be reviewed or replaced. There is a prior report from the Parliamentary Library Searches that we received only yesterday that states only 2 of the existing pipes in that drainage are open. The others, 4 of those pipes were blocked off years ago. Drains are needed on Evans Street to collect and disperse the water underground from the Mulligoon property. Their ability to release water on Evans should never have been allowed. And as I said before, we already appealed to the council prior to that development being approved, and we were totally shut off. So we're asking you, this current council, to please firmly commit to putting into this next budget the necessary funds to properly commence with remediation of the Peaks Gully, rather than directing the funds towards secondary beautification schemes like Pryor's Creek, a purported tourist attraction. A commitment was made to advocate to our state and federal members for funding opportunities on issues that affect tablelanders. Don't you think that this issue is very appropriate for such funding? To the best of our knowledge and from a report that we received yesterday, has never been applied for. So we know this has always been a daunting job and nobody wants to tackle it. So it keeps getting passed on from one council to the next. We have confidence that this council is up to the task and can get the job started and completed. With acquired government funding, it makes it possible. So we ask you, please, assure us that you would highly consider this project and put the monies into the budgets so we can get this Peaks Gully done. Wouldn't that be a great legacy? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I introduce you to Michelle Saunders.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Saunders and I live on Evans Street. I'm the one who's been rallying the troops to try and get this matter sorted. So, Mr Mayor and Council, for the past 24 years, Peaks Gully area has experienced flooding on a regular basis, with businesses and private properties being inundated with water on numerous occasions. There's photos there for you to all have a quick look at, and we've got a little booklet that we'll hand out at the end of the speech. You're the 7th council elected since the flooding began. 6 previous Atherton Shire and Tablelands Regional Shire councils under 5 different mayors have done very little to fix the real causes of the flooding issues, only band-aid solutions. Some of the problems are the drains in the Lloyd Street, Evans Street area were never designed to cope with this influx of water. There are now large volumes of water coming out of the Mulligoon drainage easement in Evans Street, and we also have a significant amount of water coming down from Robert Street into these drains at Evans and Lloyd Street. The street needs to be graded down as the water builds up and finds the lowest point to head downstream, which just happens to be residential properties. This is super important that this problem is fixed immediately. The site includes a former rubbish dump with presumptions that the pipes are blocked or broken from the fill settling. Of the 6 pipes coming out at Herberton Road, only 2 of them have water coming out. Historical developments have been allowed to encroach into the gully over decades, with some reports saying the post office foundations have gone through those pipes. That post office has been there for a very long time, so that means those pipes have been blocked off for a very long time. More developments have been allowed upstream that will direct their stormwater into Peaks Gully drainage system with no work done to increase the capacity or fix the failed infrastructure downstream. The existing retention dam basins do not work properly due to those underground pipes having failed. The water's forced to flow overland through residential properties again. The existing drains are not cleaned by council regularly, causing blockages. For example, there's an awful lot of grass growing in the stormwater drain on the street near the retention basin on Lloyd Street. Council figures estimate the system is barely operating at 10%. As little as 60 mil of rain can cause massive flooding in this already failed system. Back in 2019, many residents objected to the Mulligoon development. This development included buying the house behind the site so they could push all their stormwater down into Evans Street. It was the cheapest way for them to get out of it. While this was happening, Council prepared a future budget for the 23-24 financial year, including 1.65 million in Peaks Gully rectifications. The Mulligoon easement went ahead. The Mulligoon development went ahead. The Peaks Gully rectifications did not. Why is this? Recently, we found out that there's 2 new major approved developments have commenced upstream from the known flooding area. There's Clare Mountain Estate, which has 98 house lots, and Sunshine Gardens with a 66-room hotel and 76 house lots. The Pigs Gully underground network cannot cope with the current inflows, and yet these developments were approved. Council's known about this for 24 years. Even small developments such as the Central Tyres rear driveway will cause more flooding. The homes near there are usually flooded from the Lloyd Street side, but with grossly ineffective floodwater system, that driveway with 3 little pipes could act as a dam and send water into at least one of the flood victims' properties from the rear. A meeting was secured just before the recent election with the Divisional Councillor, Peter Hodge, Council Infrastructure Manager Mark Viz, Bernie Wells, David Clifton and Con Spanos to discuss the Sunshine Gardens and Clearview estate developments and the flooding they'll cause downstream. The meeting included a council PowerPoint presentation, which had figures from 2019, estimating $7.3 million worth, not including GST, was needed. The council said it might be double that cost now. The council claimed that it was a significant amount of work. The council advised they don't have the funds to do the job. At the meeting, the council representative said yes when I asked if I should approach the state and federal governments for funding. So I asked Shane Knuth about state and federal government funding, and he said there is funding available. He told me that the applications for funding have to come from council, not from the residents. After reviewing files from a continuous flood victim over 24 years, I discovered that 10 years ago, he found that no government funding had been asked for. So I've asked the state and federal government, have you guys ever applied for funding? I finally got information back yesterday afternoon, but the booklets you guys are going to get, they were printed on Friday before we had that information. So, out of that thing, which is from the Queensland Parliamentary Library, December 2008, flash flooding inflicted thousands of dollars of damage, blah, blah, blah. March 2009, Atherton business owners given a commitment by TRC that flash flooding problems will be addressed. Council to spend $14,000 on 3 minor works, which was a $10,000 nib wall at the Atherton second-hand shop, Sid Dykes' shop, $2,000 to alter a mound in Lloyd Street, and $2,000 to upgrade the Lloyd Street footpath. Mayor Gilmore said he was going to get an internal inspection done of the pipes at that time. September 2014, this is the only reference to funding that I found. Jeff Stocker reported TRC had voted to fund the Pigs Gully drainage upgrade of $1.5 million. We don't know when that ever happened or where the money went. Do you guys? January 2017, Council is conscious of challenges relating to drainage. This is why we've undertaken drainage improvement works for Pigs Gully this financial year. March 2019, Water and Evans Street residents fear a new development will worsen flood events, and it is. That was the Mullingar development. June 2019, TRC approved the Mullingar development, which can only increase the severity of flooding within the Pigs Gully drainage catchment. TRC is progressing the Pigs Gully stormwater flood mitigation analysis. This is the juicy bit, guys. This has to be the longest undergoing analysis ever. I was advised of this in February 2009. Consulting hydrologists were employed and a professionally prepared stormwater management report and plan must be submitted, prepared and certified by a suitably qualified design engineer that meets or exceeds the standards of design to the satisfaction of Council's delegated officer. Council do not have an in-house water expert. No reports were tabled. However, item 12 of the agenda relates to a Pigs Gully stormwater drainage investigation, which, for some reason, is confidential. So why can't we know about it? It's our houses that are getting flooded, guys. Huge amounts of money have been spent on consultants, reports, analysis and recommendations regarding Pigs Gully drainage. Ratepayers have the right to know what these are and what action Council is taking, if any. And just on a side note, I asked Council for a copy of the stormwater plan 2 weeks ago. Haven't heard it. June 2019, the Pigs Gully Catchment Flood Mitigation Scheme Option Analysis Report, that's a mouthful and a half, was received. TRC will consider investigations into staging for the Atherton project in future budget deliberations. So again, we asked Council for that information. We haven't got anything yet. Council budgets are prepared every year. In each budget, the Pigs Gully rectification money keeps being deferred into a different financial year without any work being done. The affected residents in Peaks Gully catchment do not receive any notifications on what this is and why it's happening. There is a bit of talk in here from back when Kate Eden was a councillor, saying about, you know, we've got all these plans, we've got to tell the residents, and no one ever does. We have to ring up and ask, and half the time we get bobbed off. So, we have 24 years worth of correspondence showing that the council has been aware of this matter. Council continually approve upstream developments without fixing their failed system. That's our file. We're just little residents in the street. So how big is the council file on Peaks Gully? Yes, this is a long-standing problem. Yes, it will cost money. Yes, it is a big job. It's not going to get any smaller or any cheaper, nor will it disappear with time. So we ask that council please get an urgent request in with Shane Knuth for funding. Shane's on record as saying he will fly to Brisbane with the mayor to go and get this sorted for us and get some money happening. Please, as soon as this meeting's over, get in touch with him and get a flight booked. So in summary, as Mary said, the Lloyd Street, Evans Street drainage inlet, underground pipes and road should be modified so it does not flood homes and businesses anymore. That is a priority, guys. Additional underground drainage inlets to be added where Mullingu dump all of their water into Evans Street so the excess water is not flooding Evans Street and Lloyd Street. Modify the Central Tyres driveway to ensure it doesn't force floodwater into homes. Underground drainage pipework in Peaks Gully to be replaced in Peaks Gully Road. Retention pits throughout Peaks Gully to be cleaned regularly. There's no point having them if they're blocked with grass and the pipes are broken so the water just goes straight down anyway. And keep us informed. There's an awful lot of businesses and residents in the Peaks Gully catchment that are going, what the is going on here? We ask you as the 7th Council to please ensure that this flooding issue is finally resolved. And we'll give out some information sheets now. And we only printed out 7, being 1 for each councillor and 1 for the mayor. 1 for Tom, 1 for you, darling. 1 for you. Oh. Let's be a bit more careful there.
Thank you.
Who else we got? Annette, Dave, and Kylie. Does anybody have any questions? There's lots of colour photos in there, and I thank Shane Knuth for printing those booklets for
Can you
me.
just show us the photos you've got there, Michelle? Just run through what they are.
Okay, so what we got here, most of these are actually printed from when we were fighting the Mullingu project. Oh, take a break. So what we've got here, the top left-hand corner is, that's Evans Street. This is Lloyd Street. There is a drain there that cannot cope. And that street is actually too high for the drains to work properly. So the water finds the shortest point of exit, which happens to be through Narelle's mother's house, Linda's house, Grant McAuliffe's shed, just goes straight through there and floods them. Linda has replaced 3 washing machines already.
Can I just ask a question? How old are these photos?
I don't have years on them, I'm sorry,
Okay.
but they're a variety throughout the time.
Okay.
And please note, these were taken not at the high tide mark. These are after we've tried to save our houses and then gone out and taken photos. So that is water from that same intersection going in between McAuliffe's shed and a house. These ones, I don't think anyone can actually see them, but they're Mrs. Scott's house with water going through it. That is Grant McAuliffe's shed. That was actually a furniture restoration business, and he closed it down because all of his furniture restoration stuff was getting flooded out. He couldn't cope anymore. And then he was killed in a car accident. That there is one of the retention pits. That tree has now gone because it was rotten and fell over. So the water goes around the retention pit because the drains are blocked, across the road and into private properties. That there, so that's Lloyd Street. There's a drain here that doesn't work properly, another drain over there that doesn't work properly. Mark Viz was quite informative on how they can fix it by grading the road down so the water actually runs on the road, not through our properties. That again is Peaks Gully Road. So that's where Clancy's nursery used to be. So it's just running through there, through private properties, making a hell of a mess. That's actually my place, just showing there's quite a bit of water running down there, and that was before Mullingu started. Over here, we've got that Lloyd Street Evans Street intersection again with water running straight over it. A lot of these
Can I add
photos,
something there, Michelle, please? The high tide mark is quite evident on some of those fence lines.
Yeah.
You can see how high the water has been and that it's dropped off there. So that wasn't the peak of the flood on some of those pictures.
yeah, we prioritise looking after our properties and then take photos. So are we going to have any chance of getting anything in the budget? Are you going to ask Shane Knuth for money?
Look, Michelle, I make a commitment that you've certainly got our
Your attention?
undivided attention today. So look, we'll meet collectively with our senior engineer and we'll get advice from him, but we'll also push as hard as we can to get some activity on Peaks Gully. I suspect I'm not across all the issues. I'm aware of them broadly, but it's not something that'll be fixed in 1 year. It'll have to be a staged process, I would imagine.
So we've been hearing that for 24 years. So that's why we're getting a bit stroppy.
And look, I need to look into it more closely to give you more detail than that, but I'll certainly take advice. And look, we do work closely with Shane, especially on a whole range of projects. And you know, if we've got a budget done up and we need specific things and it fits the funding requirements, we certainly travel with Shane.
So in that little booklet, there is a timeline of events, and some of that includes when a rainstorm happened, how much rain we had, and what the outcome was.
Yeah.
So that way you get an idea of tiny little bit of rain, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And what can you guys do to actually tell us what your plans are? Like that report, it says it's confidential, so we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, look, we'll do our best to be as open and transparent as we can.
Okay, so I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way.
Yeah, thank you.
No more questions? Yes, Marie?
Oh, no, it's just, do you need help?
I'll just move to the side, and then we'll take all stuff away.
Thank you.
Thank you for this time.
Thank you.
We
Thanks-
truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Michelle.
Do we have Joe Morrow here? Oh, he is, yeah.
Very good. Okay, that brings us to our third deputation. Can I invite Joe Morrow up to the front? Joe is the chairman of FNQ Growers, here to talk to us about farming and agriculture in the region.
Right, do you want me to?
Yeah, yes, please, Joe.
Just change the routine.
Yeah.
Feel more like I'm in a forest area. Just joking, guys. I can handle it. Let me get a few minutes here.
I'll leave you introduce your colleagues.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to come along and have a talk about it, and the Mayor initiating the invitation. I appreciate that, and some of my colleagues here. I'd like to congratulate, I guess, all the new councillors around the table and all those that got returned. Congratulations. I know it's an interesting start for the next 4 years. I'll just introduce the people here. There's Lawrence Massasso, who's some of you would have heard him present on this many times. You all know Marianne Salvetti. Both ratepayers. I declare an interest. I'm not a ratepayer, so I'm technically neutral. And I just want to introduce Kelly. Kelly is now working with FNQ Growers in the workforce development position. And she's not here to present anything, but it's just part of one of the activities we do with the state government in relation to improving the overall, I guess, access to labour and also improving the overall skill levels within our current employment employment structure, and also farmers. And it's not a Hort specific project, it covers all of agriculture. So Kelly's just, she's not going to say anything because I didn't ask her to prepare it. I'd let her talk if she wanted to. But if you ever want to talk about any workforce issues, and I know the PALM program is one of those things that comes up, Kelly's the person to go to. So thank you again for allowing us to come along. And I know that Lawrence and Marianne will probably like to say a few words after I do my little spiel. Look, the issue of rating has been an issue for a number of councils, with TRC in particular with the agricultural sector. And we appreciate that a lot of work has been done over the time when these issues first were risen by a number of individual farmers, and since F&Q Growers has become involved in the discussion. And I'd like to especially acknowledge the fact that the previous council has done a number of things. One was the setting up of the Agricultural Committee, which I think was a good start to begin the dialogue and consultation process of agriculture across the board. And also acknowledge the fact that the council also moved a number of motions at the LGAQ, which was successful, in regards to how the request to change how rating is conducted within the rural areas, the rural regional areas in Queensland, and also the adoption to make sure that the guidelines in regard to assessing rates and valuations and how the principles of that, which I'll talk a little bit about a bit further about. So I'd like to acknowledge that. And I hope that we can continue working with TRC in regards to better outcomes, not only just in the rating process, which is a decision for council to make, but also other issues through the Agricultural Committee and any other form of consultation we do. I think TRC should be commended for the openness that they've worked their way through these processes with the agricultural sector. I'd just like to make the point that agriculture on the tablelands, and it's a general figure, it's not specific to TRC or the Mareeba Shire Council, it's probably the whole region is worth over $500 million. And if you count bananas on the coast, the agriculture industry in the far north is worth in excess of $1 billion, and it includes the cattle industry as well. So it's worth noting that it's not just the hort industry, who employ a lot of people, which is where I predominantly sit as a representative, and we contribute a lot in economic dollars, or the GDP of both councils on the tableland. But the important thing to acknowledge sometimes, and each industry has its moments of highs and lows, but the GDP figure is a figure that floats in amongst the community. It creates direct and indirect jobs, and even when farmers are not doing well, they still contribute to the economy, and without their activities, and there's massive change that will occur within the agricultural sector with who will be farmers in the future. The corporate style businesses are making a bigger part of the industry, and they will still employ people, just the spending of that money is probably going to be more out of towns, like we see with the supermarkets and shopping centres that come in when you see major franchises. But agriculture has always been an industry that has contributed to the economy of the region. It's widely accepted as the backbone to the economy of the tablelands. And we just want to make that point that between jobs that are created directly and indirectly, without that initial GDP floating around of $500 million, would have a significant impact to the viability of all councils, and including businesses within the community, because they all spend somewhere on the tablelands. Obviously, some of it does end up on the coast. We try to minimise that, but most of the agricultural spending probably occurs within the tablelands. So we're not asking for a rate reduction. I know it's been mentioned a few times to me from discussions. The people that I've talked to are not asking for that. They're asking for predictability in their rating process, so they can plan for the future. The economy in farming is very difficult. The margins are very, very tight in some industries, and I'll quote the avocado industry. Right now, prices are at rock bottom. They're probably producing avocados at either cost or below cost, and really there is not much. And the avocado industry is one of those industries that is probably going to have some difficult period over the next few years. It's very hard to explain how the market will readjust. There'll either be, I guess, scaling down of production. There's a possibility of that, but also the long term, the markets may develop. There's lots of works on export development. India is one of those places. I know Lawrence was involved in a recent process. So the industry is working hard to return farmers to viabilities. But there's always fluctuations. Cane industry is traveling a little bit better right now. So you will get that fluctuation. That's where you also get the fluctuations in valuations, which I don't want to link to this discussion, but property prices will sell subject to a particular commodity, high or low. And actually, they're not even assessed on actual sales. Some of it's just market listing, which we believe is strongly undermines the whole process of valuation. So the issue for us is a fairness in the process. The issue for us is again that word really. So we know we can plan for the future, And the other thing, what we really would request is that the rate increases that you will have to all put in place for any budget. I can't see how you can not have rate increases, that they're fair and equitable across the board, so that we see not major fluctuations. We actually would prefer it to be as flat as possible, as even as you possibly can across the whole rating categories. We understand with valuations that you can't have a perfect number, like, well, I'll pick a number like 3. You can't have a 3% across the board. You can say it's an average, but people will be above or below that. We understand that happens, but what we're trying to say, the important thing for farmers is to plan for their future, and the closer we can have fairness in the rating process is what we're really talking about here. And I think that's the message that F&Q Growers will do. We're doing this through the Tinnery Water Committee, which is a broader group, includes the cane industry, and we work in partnership with the cane industry, but there's a number of other industries that fall outside the fruit and vegetable industry and outside cane, and we work with them to advocate that point. If you're happy, I'll just ask Lawrence if he wants to add anything.
Just quickly.
Well, to me, ask the man if you can do it quickly.
Yeah, you're welcome, Lawrence.
I promise I'll be quick. Joe has covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about. And, but again, I want to congratulate all you guys who've been elected and re-elected. I think I've met most of you. There's a couple I haven't yet. I'm looking forward to meeting at some point. I can't imagine how difficult this job is for you guys. I think I've said it to you all individually. It's a job that I've never even considered. So congratulations and thank you for your community service. As Joe says, we are an agricultural powerhouse, and I think we're the envy of the rest of the country. We've got good soils, good climate some days, and access to irrigation is obviously a crucial thing for us too. We've actually got one of the youngest age groups of farmers in the nation as well, and it's probably it gives an indication of how successful farming in this area has been, and it also adds to the success of the community, we hope, and not that we hope, we know. And so it's become a preferred destination for many people seeking employment and business opportunities. And we did begin engaging with council around 2 years ago, this small group here, and we did have a really large increase in rates at that point of 20%, when on average most other categories had very little increase at all. And we felt that was pretty unfair at the time, but to the council's credit, since that point, you've actively engaged with us, and most of the rural community see that we're getting a strong relationship back with council now, and that's been with our rural advisory group and just access to you guys personally, which I thank you for. So I do want to talk today about the rating burden going forward, because existing councillors will be aware, and probably you guys will certainly be made aware of this. We do have another large valuation increase on the books at the moment. Council have averaged our rates at the moment, which means that we will get a step up rate for the next 3 years, and pretty much that will equate to another 20% on top of that 20% that we had 2 years ago. It's a very large increase on rates for farmers, and it doesn't necessarily, well, it doesn't in this case relate to how profitable farms are, because as Joe said, rates are calculated on land valuations, and in TRC especially, land valuations are a lot more a product of land scarcity rather than the profitability of that land. The road I live on, in 40 years, 4 farms have sold, and I haven't been fortunate enough, probably was fortunate enough actually not to buy one of them, because when they come up for sale, you've got to look at them, because you won't have an opportunity to increase your business for another 10 years, I guess. So what that means is farmers will end up paying more for their farms than what they probably what they definitely economically can generate. But it's the only way to actually look at growing your business, I guess. Also, as Joe pointed out, the meeting we had in this room with the Lands Department, they said that valuations are really difficult in this area because so few properties sell. So they look at listings, and as anyone knows, when listings really don't mean a heck of a lot, you know, sales are what means something in the end. So we get perverse outcomes, like there's one farm in particular that's been for sale for $15 million for a long time. When he had an auction, he was offered 5, and he put a vendor bid in for 8. And I put that exact question to the valuer and say, how do you value that property? And he didn't really have a response for us that any of us found understandable. So I want you to keep that in mind, that when you go to do your budgets, you're going to be looking at the land valuations, because that's how rates have to be calculated. The state government forces you to do that. You do have the opportunity to adjust percentages. And as Joe said, we're not looking for a rate reduction, we are looking for predictability. That's not that hard to say, Joe. We are looking for predictability. We're looking to work with you to say that we are not asking for a decrease in our rates, but I know that we were benchmarked during the last period of council because we obviously were pretty unhappy with the situation, and I'm going to paraphrase the mayor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but he said that when we were benchmarked, we were probably middling when compared to other councils. We accept that. If we are now middling, I think the fair thing going forward is to say that the rate burden should be shared more equally going forward, independent of land valuations. If you need the extra 3% that Joe talked about.
I only quoted that number.
I actually wrote the same number. I wrote the same number.
You wrote
down,
a number.
actually, yeah. But if you need the extra 3%, I think that you should look at spreading that 3% across every rating category. I think that shows fairness in the rating process. I can't imagine anyone being able to come in here at that point and say I've been treated unfairly. 2 years ago, we certainly could. But again, I don't want to be negative because I actually really feel that we've been engaging really well with council, and I think that that can only improve this time. I do hope that we keep our rural advisory group going, knowing that our chair's no longer on council. So I think the groups that were involved found it pretty informative, and I know I learnt a fair bit at different meetings. I think that pretty much covers it.
I've got to correct him on one thing.
What's that?
I think I'll put it down in nerves. He said rates are going up by 20%. That's the valuation.
Valuation.
So,
I apologise.
Yeah, don't give him any ideas.
It's the only thing I wrote down, Joe.
As long as you come to a farmer's and explain, Gary. I'm open to any questions.
Well, let the Marianne.
Oh, sorry, yes. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Sorry.
Congratulations on your
Thank you.
positions. You've got a big job ahead of you. Just listening to the first issue, I think might be one of many, but I wish you the best of luck. I've been involved with the Agricultural Advisory Committee as well, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to have those meetings and really understand, you know, the difficult decisions that council's got to make. And I think it's benefited the agricultural sector quite greatly because you've got a good cross section of people across it. I hope that you do see the value of that committee and that you continue it on, because I think it will be beneficial for you to head off any issues like having tractors driven through the town and people not understanding the reasons why decisions are made. So I've enjoyed it, and I believe that there's a lot more that you can gain out of years of experience from the people that are on the land here. As Lawrence said, we've got quite a young generation of farmers. Well, we are quite unique in this area. If you have a look, there would not be one red soil farm that doesn't have their sons, daughters, grandsons back, running the land. I was involved with the field day last week. We had 50 people, farmers that turn up. I think there were only 3 of us of my generation, and all the rest of them were our sons and our daughters and the young agronomists coming forward. So, you know, we've got an absolutely fantastic farming area here. It's going to go through some quite substantial difficulties, and we're now seeing a lot of farms coming on the market, especially from the big corporates and especially in avocados. I think we will see a reduction in land values going forward, not initially, but as farms don't sell, get onto realestate.com and have a look at the farms that are for sale in this area and the Mareeba area. I've never seen so many, and they're sitting there for months on end, not getting sold. So at the moment, your sugar industry is the shining light of the TRC area. You've seen a lot of cane come into this area. One advantage is you won't see B doubles on the road anymore, because all the cane that was contracted to other mills has now found its way back to Tableland because of what's happened in Mossman. So that should alleviate some of the pressures on your roads with the B doubles. But just looking from the outside in, one of the issues that I would like to present to council in relation to agriculture and generally business in the district is there's a lot of talk about how hard it is to do business in the Atherton Shire. You know, I mix up with a lot of people, different walks of life. And when it comes to bringing a business or building something in the TRC area, they always compare you against Mareeba, and Mareeba is a breeze to get things done compared to the Atherton Shire. And I know that that was brought up at that meeting that we had at Lawrence's. So I would really appreciate, it hasn't affected me. I don't actually even have any land that's anywhere near council jurisdiction. But I want to see business develop. I want to see businesses come into town and develop, because they help my business when we've got them in close proximity of where we're running our farms. So I would really appreciate if you did look at why there is such a burden on businesses to develop in the Tableland region. You know, let's see if we can't get more people in. We don't want to lose people that are predicted to come in because they can't make it work with council rules. But that's pretty well me. Thank you very much. All the best for the next 4 years, and I'm sure we will see you again at some point in time.
Does the mayor or the councillors want to ask any questions at all? Or?
Any questions, councillors?
Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, look, thanks for your presentation, everyone. I think it was great. And we acknowledge that we do believe that the Agricultural Advisory Committee is working well, and it's something that was set up in the previous council, and it will go forward, I'm sure. And yeah, we welcome the input that you guys have.
We do a lot of love jobs. We just add it to our love list of jobs that we do, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, if there's no other questions, thank you, Mayor and councillors and staff, for giving us the opportunity. I know you've got to develop a budget by July sometime, so we appreciate the opportunity to speak before you start. Well, you probably have started already, but to be part of those deliberations. So thank you again.
Very good. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Okay, councillors, just moving on through the agenda there, that brings us to item 11.1, Milla Progress Association, Community Project Request, Milla Master Plan. Could I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney's moving, a seconder. Councillor Vardy seconding. Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, look, I fully support council funding the Milla Master Plan, considering that there was some suggestion of a master plan being undertaken some years ago after the Malanda one. As we are all acutely aware, this community has been noticeably challenged over the COVID times, and more recently Cyclone Jasper and the subsequent extended closure of the Palmerston Highway. As described in this report, the master plan seeks to build greater resilience and will support the current works being undertaken at the Milla Falls. This is an aspirational document that will be used to leverage grant funding opportunities through state and federal governments. It is pleasing to note that a steering committee has been formed through stakeholders in the community, and they regularly meet to progress the master plan project and will continue to drive the outcomes and recommendations from the master plan if supported by council. This will not only assist with resilience but grow the overall community empowerment. So I seek council support for the officer's recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillor Vardy, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I accept the.
Yep. Officers, would you like to add anything to the master plan? No, you just leave the questions. Councillor Kaji.
Yeah, I've got one question. The $25,000 it's going to cost to have this thing, is it in this current budget?
So through the chair, councillor, yes, it is in the current budget. The current budget will automatically captures this particular CPR, and there will be, if council approves this, a balance of roughly $4,800 left in that budget.
Councillor Vilney?
Yeah, through the chair, I just want to clarify the reason why it's been sort of not brought forward is the JCU Tropical Urban Design Lab is actually closing their operations as at the 30th of June. So this will possibly be the last master plan, which is done by JCU. I'm sure there's probably other organisations or businesses out there that may do master plans, but I would expect not at the cost of what JCU have advised. So I think it's a really good opportunity to do it now.
Very good. Final.
Just for clarity, just note that references the next operational budget, does it not?
Yes, through the chair, that resolution may need to be changed to this financial year.
Right, what was that?
Yeah, we just had next year's operational budget up there, Councillor Cardew, so we've just changed that to the current operational budget in the, yeah, box on the screen. Okay, Councillor Vilney and Councillor Vardy, you happy with that amendment?
Yes.
Getting that
Yes.
year of the budget right, operational budget, yep.
It was a question around quotations. James Cook University would be considered a government agency, and an exemption applies to use a government agency without the quotations.
Final call, councillors. Any more on this? Any more on this one? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to item 11.2, RAL 240001, RAL 1 into 2 lots, 41 SP 164497, 13 Coleman Road West, East Barron. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew is moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Spanos is seconding. Councillor Cardew.
No, thanks, Mayor. The report's pretty straightforward, pretty simple sort of an application, this one. It's no detrimental effect on the farming activities that are undertaken on that site. It's bisected by a road, so yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Pretty simple, straightforward, common sense approach.
Thanks, Councillor Cardew. Would you like to talk to that, Sean?
Through the chair, yes, happy to. Just to give a bit of context to the application before council for decision. So application seeks the development permit for reconfiguring a lot of subdivision 1 lot into 2 lots. The land's located in the rural zone and spans a couple of our rural precincts, being general, rural and agricultural. The application was subject to impact assessment and public notification was undertaken, and 2 properly made submissions were received in objection to the proposal. As Councillor Cardew has noted, the existing lot is separated in 2 parts by McKeown Road, and this proposal seeks to recognise that and create 2 lots. In the current arrangement, the resulting lots are 34 hectares and 5 hectares. The applicant states that the severance of the road results in that smaller part of the lot being an unviable proposition for a rural or an agricultural use, and the lots operate independent of each other. There is inconsistencies with the planning scheme, particularly around that the proposal seeks to establish a lot which is less than the minimum lot size required for the rural zone. It is noted that the existing lot in 2 parts is less than the minimum lot size for the rural zone, but officers have concluded practically it's unlikely that a viable operation can be established on that smaller lot, and the viable part of the lot is going to remain in rural use for agricultural purposes. Therefore, it does not compromise the primary industry's operation in the area. We note that the small lot probably lends itself to establishment of a dwelling. That is an outcome that could be achieved without this proposal, but the building exclusion area proposed will ensure that any development on that smaller lot cannot, will not impede any of operations on the lots adjacent. So yes, while the planning framework does not generally support rural subdivision, I guess council officers have considered the facts and circumstances associated with this one. They note the current operation of the lot, the severance of the road, and in our opinion, there's sufficient grounds to approve the development subject to reasonable relevant conditions contained in the report.
Councillor Vardy?
I just have a question for Sean. When you're talking about like the planning scheme is going to be updated, will that affect the zoning of these sort of lots?
I don't expect so, no. So essentially, if I can maybe assume to the question is that would we go and change the zoning of the smaller lot to a different? I wouldn't imagine so, no.
Okay.
We don't really go and spot zone certain things when it's inconsistent with the broader. The lots around it are noted in terms of their size too. So the minimum lot size in the rural zone is 60 hectares. There's not too many lots in the median adjacent area of this one that are that size at the moment. So yes.
Councillor Billney?
Through the chair, I've just got a question. There was a suggestion that the proposed lot 2 is not a viable, productive farmland. Just interested to work out how this view was established.
Certainly, well, it's all based on lot size. Generally, like I said, the minimum lot size we require for development in the rural zone is 60 hectares. Whether that's founded in the ability to undertake a viable agriculture operation is subject. We note that there's changing trends in terms of agricultural opportunity and rural uses. Essentially, but what we're saying is a lot of 5 hectares, you're going to be limited in terms of what you can establish that aligns with an agricultural or rural use on that property. So that's where that comment is founded, Councillor.
And just for clarification, Sean, impacts on neighbours by reallocating this land and exclusion zones. So there is no impacts on surrounding neighbouring farms.
So the exclusion zone, the way it was established through the application, is in response to there's a planning scheme policy that's included in our planning scheme, which is details how you separate uses from neighbouring agricultural uses, and the use of a buffer area is a common application. So that's what's proposed here. It's proposed in the location and to the extent noting the operations on the surrounding uses, and count officers believe that the greatest impact on any development of the smaller lot comes from the north with prevailing winds. There's a cropping establishment there. I guess increasing that buffer size to other areas of the property or surrounding the edges will probably further limit any use that can establish on there. I guess we have to also note that there are further restrictions on the establishment of any buildings and structures on that smaller lot, insofar as we have to consider the setback requirements. So that applies to any rural lot. So in addition to the building excluding area zone, there's additionally setback requirements for any development to establish on that, which requires building structures operation to be set back from the boundary as well. So when you add the two components together, yeah, I would suggest, and the officers are happy, comfortable with that, any use that establishes there will not impede, and equally any agricultural operation on adjacent lots won't equally impact on any use of that land going forward.
Thanks, Sean.
Councillors, I fully understand how our officers arrived at their recommendation for approval. However, I do disagree with it. I'll talk about what I think are the main issues first, and then also talk about, you know, the viability of a block that size, viability in terms of primary produce. But look, the issue of a subdivision of rural land, the fragmentation, and the issuing of a title for such a small parcel in the rural zone all ring alarm bells for me. We are not valuing and maintaining the rural integrity of our ag land. You know, to actually issue a title on 5.6 hectares which is completely surrounded in a rural precinct is really, you know, it's fragmentation. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. we shouldn't be issuing a title in our rural precinct on such a small parcel. I mean, yes, the parcel already exists because Coleman Road divides the block, but to actually issue a separate title on this, what we're doing is, if council continues to support subdividing rural land, especially into lots of this size, council is in fact feeding the rural lifestyle opportunities into the rural zone. That's actually what we're doing, and we really need to preserve our rural lands. We're creating a rod for our back with more subdivision applications of rural land increasingly likely, and what's more, we're creating the climate for complaints as rural lifestyles are up against serious farming activity. Council already deals with a lot of those complaints where we've got a lifestyle block up against a bona fide farm, and this creates that environment. In terms of that parcel that already exists, not being a viable operation for us for agricultural pursuit, well, I strongly contest that, because we've got just on the southern side of this parcel that there's been a flower farm there for 17 years, and that doesn't, you don't need 20 or 30 or 50 hectares to do a flower farm. There's mushroom farms, there's berry farms, there are tree crops that you don't need large areas to have certain tree orchards, boutique type varieties. So look, I just think, every time we approve a subdivision in our rural precinct, we're losing our integrity of our farming community, and we're creating future problems, as that will ultimately become a lifestyle block, and at some point in the future, a future council may have to deal with an application to split the 5 hectares into 3 lots, because it's just a lifestyle area. But that's speculation. But they're the sorts of things that subdividing rural land, allowing a title to go on such a small lot, I don't think we should be doing it. We should be valuing the integrity of our agricultural land. So that's my view, councillors. Anyone else like to add to that? Yeah. If no one else is going to talk, I'll go to Councillor Cardew. Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't entirely agree with the Mayor's comments. I think our planners have all the expertise under the sun, and they've come up with the recommendation that they have, which I fully support. Yes, there are opportunities that can be presented if the lot's sold. There's business opportunities that can be done. Like the Mayor said, there's opportunities such as things as flower farms and hydroponics and those sorts of things that can also be done on that little parcel of land. So I think it's more of an opportunity to increase the agricultural use of that parcel of land, as opposed to the current operations that are currently done on the bit across the road. Instead of just small like them before. So yeah, I don't agree with the Mayor's comments, and I think the officer's recommendation should stand.
Can I just say, sorry, through the chair, can I just say, as new councillors, I don't really know this lot very well, and I'm just going off the officer's recommendations here, so I'll take that on board. So when these guys tell us, this is what they do, when these guys tell us what their recommendation is, we can only, if we don't know a lot about it, which we haven't gotten to know a lot about, we can only take their recommendation and accept that. That's how I feel about it. So I don't know a great deal about these 2 lots. So it's a little difficult for us early on to make, we've got to take the officer's recommendation surely into some sort of step.
Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? That's carried.
Can I have the votes recorded on that one, please, me?
Yeah, so that was Councillor Cardew, Councillor Vilney, Councillor Hayden and Councillor Spanos, I believe. We're all in favour, yeah. Okay, that brings us to 11.3. Local Disaster Management Group, terms of reference, structure and membership. Now, there is some names we need to fill in here, councillors. So what I suggest is if I could just could I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation, and we might fill these as we go, if that'll work. So Councillor Vilney is moving. A seconder. Councillor Lang. Councillor Vilney.
Yeah, through the chair, look, perhaps we hand it straight over to our officer that deals with this.
Well, I might just cut in there, Sarah, if that's okay. Look, council did have a discussion about the first position there that we're seeking is the chair of the LDMG recovery group. Now, I'm not sure that it appears at this stage we haven't got a councillor willing to take that role. That one's vacant, but I will add that I believe we have Councillor Lang, who's interested in the infrastructure subgroup, and Councillor Barty, who's interested in the public health and environment subgroup. Do we have any other councillors interested in subgroups?
May I just, with the leave of council, say a couple of words?
Yep.
This is an extremely important part of what we do, and we have a statutory responsibility to respond in these circumstances. Setting that aside, the emergency response and recovery processes locally in all local governments are heavily underpinned by volunteer effort. For us as a local government, not to be able to provide membership of these is not a great look. So we just urge you to reconsider your availability to fill these essential roles.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think it's probably worth noting that the groups are all very different, and the human social recovery subgroup is probably the most active. That is the group that deals with the community, the response to supporting our community in a disaster event, whether that be through things like evacuation centres, counselling support, and so on. So I feel that group should definitely have a chairperson as a councillor representative. The economic subgroup is a group that doesn't meet very regularly, has never actually met in the preparation phase, but would be convened in a recovery circumstance if required. But as the CEO said, I think it's important that councillors are involved in the local disaster management group. Otherwise, I guess it becomes a little bit of a silo. You know, it needs to be integrated within local government. We are the lead agency for disaster operations, for prevention, preparation, response and recovery. That falls to local government, supported by multiple agencies. So I urge you councillors to consider putting yourself forward as chairperson for one of those groups.
Councillor Hayden.
Can I make a comment? You know, when the fires went through last year, not anyone got any help. Like, a lot of people called out for help, even with all the flooding down at Mareeba. What happened? It was like you had to sell your soul to even get the state government to help, and yet they want to sit on these, and yet they don't really. What do they get out? We get out of all these subgroups? That's what I'd like to know. I can't believe that people 5 homes were burnt, and I know someone's home's still sitting on the ground. So to me, what help and how much economic and how much resources do we do to help these people through these groups?
Well, I guess one thing I would say there, councillor, is that if we're not on these groups, then we cannot influence and advocate for our communities. The Queensland Disaster Management Arrangements is a shared responsibility between local, state and federal government. But we have to be leading the charge here. We have to be advocating for our communities. If we don't advocate, you know, with the bushfires as just one example, we were impacted by the bushfires and then Jasper came along and the whole state moved on.
That's right.
Exactly. Okay, so that is why it's really crucial for us at a local government level to be on these groups and advocating up to government. I can't do that on my own as an officer. I can only go so far in this system. It is political and it requires mayor and councillors to be involved in that process and to advocate for our communities to get what we need at this level. So again, I urge councillors to think about that.
Councillor.
Yeah, through the chair, just for councillors' understanding, I was the chair of the Human Social Recovery subgroup, and we actually met yesterday. So it's still a functional group that provides significant input into, in that particular case, the community and debrief. So yeah, I fully support councillors' involvement in these groups, subgroups.
All right. So I think. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hayden.
So I'm happy to do the economic subgroup. I won't be doing the other one.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
I'm happy to do human social if you think that's more beneficial than having public health and environment.
I would suggest that the human social recovery subgroup is probably the one that is most active. Okay. The public health and environment subgroup, it is obviously still really important. Yeah.
Do they work within each other? Do they work together?
All of these groups work together. So, you know, what affects human social can also have an impact on economic, and that is why it's important that these groups cohesively work together, because, you know, the environment, if we don't have people coming to our region and visiting our region, that has an impact on our economy. What brings people to our region is our environment. So these things are, they're all interrelated, and...
I've just spoken with Marie.
We just heard website.
So Marie's prepared to go for human social recovery, and I'll take care of public health then. So.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Councillor Spanners.
You know, I hadn't put my hand up because, you know, this is all relatively new, so we're not aware exactly what we're getting into here. So, I mean, hopefully, with support from you guys, we'll understand it more.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Lang.
Are we able to do an interim officer or a councillor for the recovery until, excuse me, until we have someone that is willing to do it permanently?
Yeah, I did have this discussion with Sarah briefly yesterday. Yeah, could we do that as an interim measure, Sarah?
Because I'd be happy to do it interim.
Yeah. And also I would be more willing to be part of that if need be.
Yeah, very good, thanks. Thanks. So perhaps we'll just, for the purpose of this motion, we'll slot in both Councillor Billney and Councillor Lang as interim cover for the recovery chair. Okay, I think, thanks very much, councillors. I think we've, Sorry. Helen.
Sorry, through the mayor, just can we put a time frame on that, just so that we know at what point we're going to revisit it to get a?
Yeah, okay.
Till the end of the financial year, we'll reconsider it in July.
Okay.
Good. Council's had a little bit of time, been through their first budget, et cetera, et cetera. Is that right for everyone?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, good suggestion. All right. So we'll revisit that in July. Very good. Is that good, Hilary? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, councillors, we've got a mover and a seconder of the motion that's on the screen. We've got councillors there for the subgroups. We've got 2 interim councillors there for the chair of the recovery group until July. That's it. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thanks,
So that brings us to 11.4, the LGAQ Policy Executives District Representative nomination. So can I believe we're going to move the second option here, but councillors, could I have a mover and a seconder of the officer's recommendation, but this will be related to the second option, that we not nominate a councillor from this council. Can we have a mover, please? Councillor Barty and Councillor Bilney. Yeah, so what we have here, councillors, is we've actually declined the offer to either myself or someone else to be on the LGAQ Policy Executive, because it is a very, very significant commitment that pulls that person away from their service to their local community. So it certainly wasn't one that I could commit to. So on that basis, we're choosing the second option, that council not nominate a councillor to the policy executive and advise LGAQ accordingly. And I believe we'll get the chance, if there's more than one nomination from other councillors in our region, we'll get the chance to vote on who the candidates are. Is that good? Has everyone got that? Okay. The motion's up there on the screen. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to 11.5, Advisory Committee Minutes. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Hayden's moving. A seconder, please. Councillor Cardew. You wish to say anything, Councillor Hayden? Yeah. Those in favour of supporting the officer's recommendation?
Can I?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks. This was discussed the other day with regards to the terms of reference, which is coming up in one of the next items. But I just want to point out that, and these probably aren't good examples in these lots of minutes here, but when these advisory committees move a motion, and it's all down to the wording. It shouldn't. The word approved, shouldn't be in there. So because the advisory committees don't have power to approve anything or give anything. So, and we've talked about this, and I think the CEO has taken this on board. But just for the public's information, if words like endorsed for council approval, so those motions that are moved are endorsed for council approval to come up at the next council meeting and be a recommend, in the officer's recommendations, it'll have those endorsed motions listed there for proper council approval. So that's why I just wanted to highlight that.
Make sure that language is consistent with what the statute says.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, those all in favour? Carried, thank you. Councillors, before we go on to the next one, where it just might take us a little bit of time to finalise who the councillors are for those committees, we might take a 10-minute break. That'll take us to just after 10:30. So yeah, we'll just adjourn. Thank you. Okay, very good, thank you. We'll get started again, councillors. So that brings us to 11.6, advisory committees to council. I think we'll do what we did last time, councillors. We'll get a mover and seconder, and then we'll sequentially go through the list of committees in front of us and assign councillors. So could I have a mover and seconder? So Councillor Vardy's moving, and Councillor Cardew. Okay, what I'll suggest, councillors, is I'll go through with the names that are on my list, and if there's any changes to that, we'll make them as we go. So the first one, the Rating Advisory Committee, I've got Councillor Bilney and Councillor Cardew. Is there anyone else that was for that one? No? Very good. The Agriculture Advisory Committee, I've got Councillor Cardew. Anyone else would like to be on that one?
Rod, could I suggest that you be on that one yourself? The only reason I ask that is that out of all these committees, I think, and we've heard from the presentation earlier this morning, I think this is probably one of the most important committees that we have, and it is the agricultural sector provides for a large amount of the economy in the DRC area. I just thought maybe the mayor would be appropriate on that committee as well.
Yeah. Look, I think it's better that, personally, I think it's better that I'm not on that committee. I mean, I do have other committees that I'm on, Kevin, and they're all important. But I'll make a commitment to come to those ag advisory meetings when I can, rather than be a designated representative, if that's okay. Sorry, what's that?
No, I just think I'm just mulling over legislation, looking to my colleagues for advice. I think you might be ex officio on all committees, seems to me. So if you choose to attend and participate, your office gives you that right.
Okay.
Is that as councillors across the board?
No, that's the mayor.
Just the mayor.
Could you just check
I
that's
will
right,
check.
Garrett? Garrett, that'd be good, thank you.
I'm not going to necessarily find that right now.
Yeah, no, I don't mean now, but yeah, I'd prefer that you're the designated lead there, Councillor Cardew, on that
Yeah,
one.
no, that's okay.
So the next one, Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. So I've got myself, and I've also got Councillor Spanos and Councillor Lang. I've got two there. Is two the limit on these? Yep. Two councillors is the limit, so.
I don't
Any
know
councillor can
I think
attend. I don't know if we've actually fixed the limit other than under the terms of reference, have we?
You can have as many as you like, I believe.
No, my understanding is you have two on the actual committee, but any councillor can attend as an observer.
Yep.
Okay.
So, if I could, particularly for the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, the CEO and Mayor are automatically, if you come, then you're there as a member, but not on.
Non-accretion on statute barred.
I'm sorry.
Member.
Invitee, yes, and the Mayor is a member if he comes, that's it.
So that brings us back to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee.
You got on there?
Well, I'm there, but we've also got Councillor Spanos and Councillor Lang.
Kylie just said that she dropped from that, if you like. So.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, so Councillor Spanos is on the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. Sorry, Councillor Cardew.
Is it okay if we go back to the advice? We've only got one, which is myself. I think the importance of that, I think we need a couple at least.
Would you like me to get in? Sorry, you go.
No, you go.
No, that's fine. No,
Yep.
I want you to.
Yeah.
Well, I was planning to come on, but I could, but yeah, if you want somebody else, but if you want to.
Well, I can put my hand up, that's all, but I'd like to actually come to some of those meetings anyway, so.
Well, if you get a,
That relates only to standing committees, not advisory committees.
Oh, okay, okay.
if you have two people with it, they've got voting rights.
Okay.
So, and any councillor can come along to those meetings, but at least have two voting.
Yeah.
Councillors on board, yeah, okay. No, you go.
Okay, I'll put my name
Okay,
forward.
so,
Is that all right?
so councillor Barty's on the Ag Advisory,
Yeah.
good.
Just,
Oh, then somebody else wants.
just a clarification, councillors, my recollections are not completely correct. The mayor is ex officio on each standing committee, it doesn't extend to advisory committees, so it needs to be appointed.
Thank you. That brings us to the Cycling Advisory Committee. I've got councillor Bilney and councillor Spanos. Yep, all good?
Can I just ask a question on that? The cycling committee does have a cessation date at the end of that strategy once it's been prepared and endorsed by council. So the terms of reference would have to be addressed within that. So I'm just highlighting the fact that that existing cycling advisory committee does have an end date currently.
And the other.
The rail trail is
Is okay, but the other advisory committees, they're all for the term? But that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Making sure.
All right, the Herberton Mining Centre Advisory Committee, councillor Hayden, on that one. Would you like another councillor there, councillor Hayden?
No, we have two officers.
Okay. Next one, the Youth and Inclusion Advisory Committee, councillor Lamb. Yep, very good. Natural Asset Management Advisory Committee, incorporating pest management, councillor Barty. Reconciliation Action Advisory Committee, I've got myself and councillor Barty. Yep, all right. The Regional Arts Development Fund, RADF, I've got councillor Cardew and I've got councillor Lang.
I'm just wondering if maybe because I work with organisations that regularly submit applications to the RADF, whether I should not be on that committee.
I mean, there is an easy way to manage that. You know, if you're there and one of those applicants come in, you can just excuse yourself.
Okay.
So I wouldn't let that balk you at this stage, because you can easily manage that conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was happening every time, well, maybe you'd review it, but all right. Next one, Rocky Creek War Memorial. I've got councillor Lang again for that one. Tableland Regional Gallery Advisory Committee, I've got councillor Barty and councillor Lang. The Tablelands, these are the gift fund committees. Tablelands Regional Gallery Gift Fund Advisory Committee, I've got councillor Spanos and councillor Lang. The Malanda Falls Visitor Centre Gift Fund, I've got councillor Bilney. The Herberton Mining Centre Gift Fund Advisory Committee, I've got councillor Cardew and councillor Hayden. Yeah, good with two there, or?
We don't need to, but I
No.
suppose.
Don't
I
need
won't
to?
give it enough.
Yeah. All right, and then we've got the Ravenshoe Visitor Centre Gift Fund Advisory Committee, councillor Hayden. Have we missed any? Councillor Cardew?
I'd like to put up that, we've taken out of this list, the one that's missing is the Traffic Advisory Committee. I'm just wondering, is there any merit in putting that committee back on the list? Because I think it's I think it's an important conduit, not for information from the committee coming back, but information from us going forward to the committee. I think it's an important one. It gives us direct access to PMR and those other officials in those other areas. It's just a, I don't know, that's my thoughts. I think there's lots of road issues around the place. This road seems to be a big issue all over the place everywhere, and you want to try and have something done, especially on the state-controlled road. I think it's just a good conduit for councillors on that committee to portray whatever the issues are direct to those other authorities.
So why did we drop it?
We were, well, the thrust of the information session that was conducted a week or so back was that we wanted to rationalise these committees, and that was a committee, so we considered membership of those committees where there was common membership, etc., and the purpose of those committees and whether that could be successfully fulfilled another way. And in this particular case, I'm of the view that it's more of an information sharing at an officer level. We don't have extensive external input. So we have a councillor. I don't think we have any other external civilian people who are members. We may,
so through the chair, we do invite, for example, the local bus companies, could be transport organisations around sugarcane. They have in the past attended, but it's not currently the case, and it's also not always the case either.
They're not members per se.
No, they just
attend that presentation. So I was of the view that that's one that can be managed at an officer level. If council wishes to reinstate it, that's fine, but I'm not, I think, guided by the purpose of an advisory committee is to provide information up to council through that process, and this is more a case of council using that forum to share its views with Main Roads and Queensland Police Service. But that said, matter for council. It has existed for some time. Just think it's one that we could meet the same outcomes without formally establishing the committee. But it's my view. It's not a factor.
Yeah.
In opinion.
Yeah. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah. Well, my view is that I'd like to see it reinstated. There's this one example is like the Manti Road intersection. You know, I still don't know where we are with that. Trying to get it closed or even, you know, left in and left out. But those are the sorts of examples that, you know, when you've got people coming to you and say, you want to talk about this intersection or what have you, if there's an accident or potential accidents or what have you, it's just a conduit to be able to talk to that directly to those authorities. Yeah, that's my, I'd like to see it in.
So basically Councillor Cardew is proposing an amendment to add the Traffic Advisory Committee. So we need a seconder for the amendment. Is the councillor willing to second? Councillor? Yeah. So Councillor Barty's seconding that the TAC be added to the advisory committee list. Those in favour? Okay, carried. So Traffic Advisory Committee's back in. So yeah, Councillor Cardew. So I'll put your name down there. And do we have another nominee for the TAC? Councillor Spanos. Very good. Okay, so the amended motion becomes the motion now. So it includes the TAC. Is that it, councillors? Are we all good with that list? Yeah, Councillor Billman.
Through the chair. Now, where we've got instances of two councillors on those committees,
yeah,
do we need to work out who is going to be the chair?
Good question.
Two approaches to that. Council can appoint the chair. You can allow the committee to appoint the chair. Either way, it's acceptable.
My preference would be to do it here now.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I agree with that too.
Dealing with it now. So.
That way that you go to one of these meetings, you know who's chairing.
Yep.
Yeah. No, think about it.
Okay, so we'll just go through the list again and identify the chair. Huh? So I'd suggest councillor Bilney for the Roading Advisory Committee. For the, yeah, just let me know if you want something different. Councillor Cardew for the Ag Advisory Committee. Myself for the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee.
Sorry, through the chair, the Audit Risk and
Yeah.
Improvement Committee has an independent chair that's
Yeah,
already
good.
appointed separately.
I like that. That's good.
I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, it's good to just take instructions sometimes instead of being in charge. So, yeah, the Cycling Advisory Committee. Councillor Bilney, yeah, thanks. Councillor Spanos. When I say that, you've been there, that's all. Yeah. Herberton Mining Centre, yeah, so that's councillor Hayden. The Youth Inclusion, that's councillor Lang. The Natural Asset Management is councillor Barty. Reconciliation Action Advisory Committee, myself. The RAF, it's either councillor Cardew or councillor Lang.
If Kevin wants to do it.
I'm happy to do it. If Kyle doesn't want to do it.
All right, councillor Cardew. Rocky Creek War Memorial, that'll be councillor Lang. Tableland Regional Gallery Advisory Committee, councillor Barty or councillor Lang?
I'm happy to do that one.
Councillor Lang, thank you. Gift funds, Tableland Regional Gallery. Councillor Spanos, you happy to do that? Yep. Orlando Falls Visitor Gift Centre, councillor Bilney. And then the final two, councillor Hayden to chair those two.
And the traffic advisory.
And the traffic advisory, councillor Cardew. Would you like to chair that? Yeah.
If we can't make it to a meeting for any reason, like what happens if we're the only one on there?
Yeah, well, there's normally an officer at these meetings, so you need to let the officer know that for whatever reason, you
How
can't.
do we know who the officer is?
Oh, you'll find out.
You'll find out, then we, okay, good. There's a process.
It'll be a surprise, everything.
Yeah. What was that? I'll figure it out.
I said it will be a surprise.
It's a surprise.
You don't go to any of these meetings without any help or following you.
Okay, all right, that's good. Minstrels.
That's not a bad
We've got plenty of opportunities. We'll leave you hanging out there, but we won't do it at advisory committee meetings.
All right, councillors, I think we're done on that one. So those in favour of those advisory committees and their councillors? Carried, thank you. So that brings us to brings us to 12.1. TRC 2024-03, supply of cleaning services, corporate facilities and public amenities. Can I?
Sorry, this one.
Have I missed one?
Yeah, 12.1.
Sorry, I have. So 12.1 is, TRC 2023-01, dry hire of plant and equipment waste sites. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang. Seconder, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Lang.
Reading everything, the officers have obviously gone to great depth to ensure that we're getting what is required for our services. So I'm quite happy with the recommendation.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Hayden, did you want to?
No, I need anything for you.
Yep.
Transfer station.
Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Right, and that brings us to 12.2 now. And 12.2 is TRC 2024-03, supply of cleaning services, corporate facilities and public amenities. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang, Councillor Bilney, Councillor Lang.
Again, reading through, seeing the quotes that have come through for the tenders, through all three, they seem to be the most consistent and value, and I think they'd be a great company to work with.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, can I just like to ask the officer, and I think I asked this the other day, but, who's cleaning their public facilities now?
So the recommendation holds a change to the current contractor for Route 1, which is Atherton, Route 2, Wakaman, Olga, Kira, and Tinaroo for the public amenities.
But who's cleaning there? Who's cleaning these amenities that we up here for now?
You want the contractor's name?
Yeah.
Super Clean?
It's a different one, because I don't think.
That's correct. Yeah.
I'm not happy with the state of our public amenities at the present time, so if it's not the same one, I'm happy to go with this recommendation. Yeah. Because our amenities, I've used them myself in recent times, and they're disgusting, to be quite honest.
Is that all we're going to say, Councillor?
Sorry?
Is that all you're intending to say?
That's all, thank you.
Pushing boundaries of the
One other thing, guys, can I just say, a lot of our amenities are past their due by date too. I'd just like to think a lot of them need updating. However, and that's probably part of the reason why, you know, having someone clean them is a difficult job, because they are past their due date.
If I may, through the chair, I think that's a good topic to discuss as a matter of how we deliver our services ongoing and future budget discussions. Also noting, I thought let's get cleaned once a day. So obviously, once they're cleaned and people then visit the site and do their thing, we've got very little control over what the condition then is after our claims have changed, so have moved to another site. So obviously, in future service level discussions, if council wants to change that level of service, we can always explore those options.
Thank you. Councillor Bilney.
Yep, through the chair, look, I support the officer's recommendation. I just want to go one step further. I've noticed a growing incidence of vandalism, particularly in the public amenities in Malanda. Just wondering how we can assist future contractors to combat that. You know, I have heard of armour oil as a on the walls to try and combat that, so because the paint won't stick. I just want to start the story. Can we investigate ways to assist contractors to alleviate future graffiti in those facilities?
Can I just ask the CEO to just take that on notice?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll just deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
With what's in front of us.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a mover and a seconder for 12.2. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 12.3, the Ravenshoe Netball Court Shelter. Councillor Hayden's moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cardew. Councillor Hayden.
So just one thing, it's exciting to finally see the netball court cover finally starting. The cover will protect the courts from the adverse weather conditions in Ravenshoe, allowing games to proceed regardless of the weather. It will make such a difference to users, and everyone can enjoy a more comfortable experience without being exposed to the elements.
Very good. It is a good outcome. Anyone else like to talk to this one? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to 12.4, TRC 2024-12 Asphalt Overlay Program. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney. And councillor Hayden, councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, I've got nothing additional to add, unless Sean's got something. He's in the big chair today, so.
Thank you. Very good. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Thank you. That brings us to Community and Corporate Services, 13.1, Finance Report, March 2024. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillors, can we have a mover? Councillor Bilney is moving and Councillor Barty seconding. Councillor Bilney?
Through the chair, I've just got one comment in the recommendation. I just want a clarification where it talks about the Malanda Falls Picnic Shelter, an amount of 60,212, and then I think it's going to Battery Park. My understanding was that picnic shelter was taken out Easter last year by a storm, and it was going to be replaced by insurance. So I just want confirmation that that's the case, and we're not actually taking money from another project to facilitate that.
If I may, through the chair. So that is absolutely correct. So there was a payment up front, so the excess, which was $5,000, which has been paid previously, but the reinstatement of that structure is funded by insurance. I've just allocated a budget and I haven't updated project, but have just allocated to it. So when we spend the money, we see that on the capital listing, and just to make sure that we're not increasing our capital budget, because we don't need to increase the budget as such because it is funded and we have some underspends in capital anyway, but it's correct. We are covered by insurance are ultimately paying. What I just need to do on our accounts is I show the revenue from the insurance in one section and the expense in another. So it's just reflected.
Very good, thank you. Councillors, any more questions for our manager? Those in favour? Thank you very much. Carried. Item 13.2, councillors to be considered employees for superannuation and tax purposes. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang moving, Councillor Cardew seconding. Councillor Lang?
It just makes sense to me. Simple.
Very good. Those in favour? Okay, thank you. Okay, councillors, we've got 4 items left, or business without notice. No. We've got 4 items left. They're all in confidential. So can I have someone move that we go into confidential? Councillor Barty's moving, and Councillor Bilney is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Good. Councillors, 16.1, Peterson Creek Walking Trail tenure. I'll go to Councillor Barty.
Do I do that?
Yeah, Councillor Barty is proposing that we move this motion.
That council lay the matter on the table until the May ordinary council meeting to allow the chief executive officer to make further inquiries in relation to the survey, valuation and tenure matters considered in the closed meeting, including by engaging consultants to provide further advice to council, explore potential funding opportunities, including private funding opportunities by the YAI et al. To formalise access to the Peterson Creek walking track, and hold further discussions with the owner of Lot 1 on RP 734318, the lot, in relation to the walking track and other matters relating to the lot. I also have a number of letters to table in relation to this matter. I've got 4 letters, one from the YBI, one from the YAI, one from Gina Met, and one from Senior Elder Laurie Padmore that I'll email through.
Fantastic, thank you. So Councillor Barty's moved that motion on the screen, and there's correspondence coming as well. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bilney seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. That brings us to 16.2, Reserve Land Carinya Home for the Aged. Do we need to read this one out as well?
We haven't been reading the motions out all day, so no.
It hasn't been changed.
It hasn't been changed. It's available for anyone to view, so the other one's been changed. So
Yeah, the other one
to read it out.
This one here hasn't been changed, though.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay.
So Councillor Spanos, would you like to move that one?
I'd like to move the 16.2 Reserve Land Carinya Home for the Aged be, I'd like to move that in a moment.
And a seconder, please, councillors. Councillor Barty seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. That brings us to 16.3, Routine Maintenance Performance Contract 2024-26. Councillor Hayden, would you like to move that? Councillor Hayden's moving 16.3. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bilney seconding. Those in favour? Carried. 6-1 against. And that brings us to 16.4, the Land Restoration Fund Pilot Project LRF 061 variation. Councillor Bilney's moving 16.4. A seconder, please. Councillor Lang seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And there being no further business, call the meeting closed.